right. Good morning, good morning, good morning. How are we doing this morning? This is Steve Ball. I'm with Custody Wars, Restoring Families Radio, the Family Law Reform Movement, and I am wanting to talk to you guys about this article that I found, Political Fact Ohio. And I think some of the information in this article is good, and I want to have you guys come on here and message me and talk about this. Do protection orders really protect? That's the question. And there seems to be, even now, there seems to be some controversy whether they protect or not. Now, men's rights out of Halifax right now, and it's interesting. We're going to take this in contrast. There's an article here, and it says children are safer with their fathers. Interesting. We're going to talk about both here. Children are 2.4 times more likely to be killed by their mothers, and boys are more often murdered. Boys are murdered more often than their female counterparts by their own mothers. The DHHS data shows that children abused by one parent between '01 and '06 were 70.6% were abused by their mothers, whereas only 29.4% were abused by their fathers. And of children who died at the hands of one parent between '01 and '06, 70.8% were killed by their mothers, whereas 29.2% were killed by their fathers. Furthermore, contrary to the media portrayals that leave the viewer with the impression that only girls are harmed, boys constituted 60% of all child fatalities. And there's a table there. I'll go ahead and drop this link here later, but it's an interesting take. It's a very interesting take. Now we'll go back to the protection order issue. Okay, this article that I want to cover here is Political Fact Ohio, by Tom Farron, Thursday, May 30th, 2013. Okay, so it's a little bit older, but in those 3 years, I don't really think much has changed in the information. I think it's pretty much the same. If it was 5 or 10 years old, it might be questionable, but 3 years is the status quo for this kind of issue. So let's move on. The article says, a group of state lawmakers this month introduced legislation designed to avert domestic violence deaths by disarming Ohioans who are served with temporary protection orders. House Bill 160, introduced by Representative Bob Hagan and co-sponsored by Reps. Nikki Antonio, Mike Foley, Teresa Fedor, and Denise Driehaus, maybe? Okay, would require individuals served with domestic violence temporary protection orders or temporarily surrender their firearms to local law enforcement within 24 hours or sell their firearms to a licensed dealer. Here's the problem, guys. Now, I'm going to stop right there. I'll highlight so I know where I'm at. The problem is that you've been convicted of no crime. It is not a crime per se for somebody to not like you. Hold on. Is out of high speed dead end one. Oh man, I'm sorry, Miss Stevens. I apologize. You can watch this at a later point or find a Wi-Fi signal. That would be amazing. But let me get into this. So it is not necessarily a crime to have somebody not like you. And based on their opinion, you're going to lose a liberty, a right. And I think that needs to be dealt with in criminal court, not civil court. But let's go on to see what the article says. The most dangerous moment for domestic violence victims is when protection orders are first issued. By temporarily separating the abuser from the firearm, we can work to prevent unnecessary, tragic, and homicides in the future. I have something to say there. I think a lot of these harms that are created by the issuance of the order in and of itself. Here you take a case where mom and dad are, they're clearly having their issue. Mom goes and gets the restraining order. Dad becomes heated. Maybe he doesn't understand the gravity of what's taking place. He's angry. He's being removed from his child. Men are, we primordially, speaking, we are people of possession, which is true. We are providers, which is true. And now, in many men's situations, they will strip from you your children. That creates an unsafe environment. I understand that. But then you're taking the firearm away, again, without a criminal conviction, which is ridiculous. But you got to understand it's going to piss people off. So, anyways, the chairman of the Buckeye Firearms Association, Jim Irving, says he backs Hagen's mission to quell domestic violence, but called House Bill 160 a failed idea that would not solve the problem. A gun is a tool the problem uses, states Irving. But there are knives, bats, clubs that are also tools. Are you going to take those away as well? The idea that a protection order protects someone from another is a myth. It's like putting a no guns sign on the building and thinking bad guys can't come inside. It is a myth that protection orders work. Political Fact Ohio was interested. We found several studies that suggest protection orders can be effective in deterring further violence, but we also found there are pitfalls in trying to prove whether they actually provide protection. So we are reporting our findings, I like this, but not making a ruling on the truthometer. We started out research by asking Irving for more information. There is already a law in place that prohibits us from murdering any of us anyways, from murdering any of the others of us anyways. If that does not work, it's crazy to think a judge's words in a piece of paper will work any better. Bottom line, protection orders don't work. We know that. We need to try something different. Irving said that he had no studies or statistics that officially lay out the odds of being murdered with a protective order, but he provided several stories with multiple examples of women being killed by men who had been served with protection orders. One said Las Vegas local officials say many of the most severe cases of domestic violence involve victims who had protection orders. It continued, domestic violence experts say restraining orders aren't protective shields. Studies show as many as 2/3 of protection orders are obeyed, but no one can predict which cases will erupt into actual homicides. A story from Denver quotes a prosecutor saying that a restraining order is not going to stop bullets and is almost asking for trouble without a safety plan. Here, hold on. It looks like I'm going all over the place with my viewers. Hey, you know what? This is great information. I want you guys to come in and join us here. Anyways, by analysis by State.com's fact-checking explainer, prompted by a shooting in Wisconsin, specifically cites a study in Washington State that concludes that protection orders don't seem to work in the short term because in the first few months, psychological abuse is actually more common among those who obtain legal protection orders than those who do not. Interesting point. Over the long term, however, protective orders appear to work very well, decreasing incidents of domestic violence abuse by 80% over the year following initial abuse. We looked farther into a 2009 study by the U.S. Justice Department. Do protective orders work? Its answer was that research has not been able to answer the question definitively, mainly because it's not ethically permissible to randomly grant or deny protective orders to compare results. Furthermore, these orders may work at different levels. In order to obtain a protection order in civil court, we all know this, it takes no evidence. You walk into the court, you say that you're afraid, they grant you a protection order, alienation occurs with the children, which is usually why you're getting there. Very few of these cases, I would argue, are actually designed to really protect a victim of domestic violence. What they are doing with these cases, and if you look at the way protection orders are worded, it is the first key to a custody dispute. Number one, and you call up any courthouse in America. Hi, welcome to Steve Ball County Courthouse. Press 1 for domestic violence protection orders. That is the truth. So we're using that protection order not to protect an abuser or protect one from being abused or to keep one from an offender. Although that's the idea, what has taken place here is a a tool which they call the silver bullet, but it's a tool to obtain custody. And when they do that, they use that restraining order, and that's the alienation. So let's continue. A study by the University of New Hampshire Carsey Institute, which conducts policy research on family and civic issues, found that civil protection orders are effective in reducing partner violence for many women. For half the women in that sample, a protective order stopped the violence. For the other half, the order significantly reduced violence and abuse. The results show clearly civil protective orders are an effective intervention in addressing partner violence. The National Center for State Courts examined 3 jurisdictions and found in the vast majority of cases, civil protection orders deter repeated incidents of physical or psychological abuse. An analysis of civil protection orders in Kentucky said that orders provide justice for some, but for others they are a piece of paper. For most women, protective orders reduce violence, the analysis found. And I'm going to tell you why they're finding this. Why that they are finding this. And this is, I want to be honest, this is all total crap. The reason why they're finding this information is because the truth is they're taking the guns off the street. That's what these orders are after. That's what they're doing. They can't necessarily go after the Second Amendment of the Constitution, so they found a way to circumvent it, and here they are attacking you at the family level. Right. Mr. Grabash states, I have not seen my 7 and 12-year-old in almost 4 years because of this. I understand. In Wisconsin, the State Bar Association said that restraining orders do not guarantee protection, but research, again, they just stated that research can't be trusted, but research suggests that restraining orders are between 40 and 80% effective in deterring incidents of abuse. And each year after obtaining the order, again, alienation, 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 take the guns away, and alienation. That's what these restraining orders are designed. That's what they're doing. That's what they know to do. And then you get your restraining order. You get your child support. It's game over. Now let me continue here. Similar figures were reported in a guide to protection orders by the National Council of Juvenile and Family Court Judges. Ohio does not keep statistics on protection orders, said Nancy Nylon, Executive Director of Ohio Domestic Violence Network. I've personally been asking for this for more than 20 years. She said, experience has shown that one time of separation or leaving in domestic violence situations is an extremely dangerous time. The ODVN warns that it is a time when risk for serious injury and deaths are escalated for the victim, children, and other members of the family, bystanders, co-workers, friends, companions, partners, and the batterer. Leaving call law enforcement, emergency shelter, and protection orders may or may not make a victim safer. Okay, so we're hearing that there's really no research that can be trusted. We're hearing that the research is actually blocked and barred and considered unethical because you can't weigh one person's order against another person's order because everybody's an individual. And here what you have is a federal government in the United States that has classified any recipient of a protection order to be a batterer, whether that be male or female. And under those terms, without the benefit of conviction, they can strip you of your constitutional right to own, keep, or possess or carry a firearm. However, Men's Rights in Halifax states that women abuse or kill their child to 76 to 70.6 times or percent of that of their male counterparts. Ladies and gentlemen, we grant a restraining order with no oversight, and we are potentially handing our children over to a scorned individual who could possibly kill our children. This is the cold, hard, I wish I wasn't making this up. This is the cold, hard truth. This is what's really going on in the status quo. What do we do to wake the judges up? What do we do to reach out to our lawmakers? Look, I think these restraining orders, they should be revisited, re, and a requirement to that. You don't just hand somebody a blanket piece of paper for a year or 5 years without having a review. And what I mean by that is, is mommy or daddy visiting with the child? No, Your Honor, dad hasn't seen the child in 5 months. And why is that? Why are we allowing that alienation to occur? And so when we pressure our courts, when we pressure our legislators, we need to pressure them to modify these kinds of laws so we don't have this blanket alienation that's occurring. Many groups, myself included, know this as the silver bullet routine. And once you get a guardian ad litem involved, you plow the guardian ad litem with all this batterer paperwork, which half of these accusations were never proven in a court of law. They were only stated in civil court, where 49% of the evidence versus 51% of the, that's too close to call. Now, I understand granting an order for 60 to 90 days while a batterer, moves out or other living arrangements are made. But this blanket statement, a year long, no contact with the children, never any abuse proven, this shit has got to stop. This alienation has gone too far. Our courts need to reel it back a little bit, or if they can't on their own, we have our legislators reel them back by limiting the court's ability to issue a blanket statement protection order. How is it that we expect America to have strong, healthy families when we are taking away one of the pillars that a child would need to grow and build their own foundation upon? This is a terrible, terrible thing that we've allowed our courts and our legislators to do. Ladies and gentlemen, I look to you guys, and you know what? I want you guys to keep what I've said here in mind. Take this movement forward. It's not in my hands. It's in your hands. It's in your hands to wrap your arms and wrap your words around America's children and America's families as being an American. You know what? We're here for you and we're here for each other. That's all I've got for now. Thank you for joining me.